From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. In this recording, we go over that $3.5 trillion recon that has been passed. That'll pay viewers upwards of about $15,000 across the board, plus an add-on on top of that of money accruing $25,000 and then an additional $250 billion on top of that. We go over all the items that are in this incredible recon. Cluster number 1, hazard pay. Cluster number 2, money for seniors. And cluster number 3, money for big free internet. I have all the incredible details in tonight's recording. Then we turn to the details that are unfolding today at Capitol Hill. The latest details continue to happen as the Congress is back in session. They're back, but guess what? The president today had a series of private meetings away from the cameras. Why is he doing it? I have the latest details on tonight's Evenings LA about all the meetings that happened. This is as a potential deal is in the works for Joe Manchin, but one of the backup plans fell apart today. One of these two plans, clean energy and carbon tax, did not work, so I'll have the latest details on that as well. Then we turn over to student loan debt forgiveness. More debt is being forgiven. It's a big detail, and there could be more student loan debt forgiven by the weekend. Then COLA raises going up, and this is not the only time it's going to go up. You're going to have more lifts of that across the board, and we'll be cutting over to fifth stimulus, which has additional sums of money on top of that. But we're not done with that yet, because then we'll be turning to third stimulus that is still paying viewers big sums of money. I'll have all the latest details on third stimulus. We'll be turning back to what Joe Manchin and the president did today and what the president will be doing tomorrow. It's a big evenings with a big recap of what has happened just in the last hour since Afternoons LA. And this, of course, is not Afternoons LA. This is a big evening, and the evening is upon us. From the West Coast to the East Coast, the excitement starts right here on Evenings LA. Hey, good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful evening across the planet. And boy, it is a big night across the board as well. As we look at the $15,000 you're going to get from this $3.5 trillion recon for stimulus check updated 2021 tonight as a provision of $25,000 being proposed to be added on top of that and $250 billion on top of that. And of course, those MSC checks. This recon has a lot of clusters in their pass. In tonight's recording, we'll go over which of them are getting modified. Hazard pay, paid home paid leave, and then money for seniors. We have the latest details on that. But the real surprises across the board are those meetings. Those meetings you're hearing for the first time tonight on Evenings LA. Yes, Congress is back, but the president had a series of private meetings. You're not going to have the president give you a press briefing. I'm going to tell you what went on. It's all insider information. Then a potential deal of Joe Manchin and one of the backup plans falling apart. One of these two plans did not work today. I have the latest details. Student loan debt is heating up, and this is great news across the board because there may be more student loan debt being approved by the weekend. And then the COLA raises, not just one, but several across the board. It's a big evening, and we're just getting started. Direct from Santa Monica, I'm really excited you're here. Let's get to the incredible details. But first, thank you for joining me, and you're going to look back on the first 1.5 years of this channel as it celebrates its anniversary this weekend. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video and consider becoming a member. Let's cut right to that $3.5 trillion recon passed. It has 3 clusters of checks in there. And what's important to remember is that this recon is for you. It's for the American people. Single individuals, married couple, married, single, with work, without work, disabled, not disabled, seniors, young people, all across the board, red, blue states. This is you. It averages out to most viewers of this channel about $15,000 across 3 clusters of checks passed, with 3 add-ons now proposed. We're going to go over each of them one at a time. And remember that this is great news because it starts with the premise that's about $15,000 to your wallet. Let's turn to the first cluster of checks, and it is hazard pay and $4,000 of elder care. They got it in there. Broaden the eligibility of the earned income tax credit, so these essential workers would get more money and more of them would qualify. Up to $4,000 a year of elder care, the same amount of money also for younger people. Then they got the CTC approved. Boy, this is wonderful. The child tax credit broadened the eligibility and increased the amount of money. How much is it? $51,000 a child. How much does it pay? Up to $300 every month, every year. Up to 18 years, that's $51,000 per child if the household remains low income. Free home repairs got in there. Yeah, did I just wake you up? Free home repairs. Absolutely wonderful. As soon as it becomes law, I'll show you how to get this money. These are free home repairs in the low-income communities. Then they got money for college students. So the Pell's grant made tax-free, the money to the college and also to the student directly. And then money for bikes, cars, and trucks, all electric, all U.S. auto manufactured. 15% for the purchase of a new electric bike. A little bit more, $7,500 for a new electric car, personal use, and a little bit more if it's a bike. There you go. That is the first cluster of 3 clusters of checks passed in this subcommittee of the House that pays you on average about $15,000. But now we have 3 add-ons that are being proposed on top of that. And let's go to the first add-on, and it is from Maxine Waters. The Los Angeles House member proposes $25,000 of hard cold cash going to you. What is this? For new home buyers. First home buyers would get up to $25,000 for the purchase price of their first home. How would this likely land? Probably during escrow. When you go to purchase that new home, the federal government gives $25,000 to the seller in your name. That is the first add-on, but now let's go to the second cluster of checks, and these are passed. What's important to remember in these clusters is that these are checks for life in general. You don't have to have COVID. It's not COVID related. It's for everyone. They got home repairs in there. They got paid leave. Yes, more home repairs. So paid family medical leave, how much is that? $1,700 a week if you make $80,000 or more per year, split in half. $800 a week if you make $35,000 a year, split in half. $400 a week if you make $15,000 or less per year. Wow. Then they got more child care program checks, household tax credit checks. Checks for seniors like dental, checks for pre-kindergarten, tuition-free community college, and then they got checks in there for the house. Yeah, you're waking up again. More house repairs this time for everyone. And it's to weatherize the home. My favorite word of the 2021, weatherize. I just love that expression. Weatherize your home. Definitely need, especially if the moderate Democrats are on the roof. Whether they are or whether they aren't, you gotta weatherize the home. Always, what I say is keep the moderate Democrats out of the House. And wherever possible, keep the moderate Democrats out of the Senate. There you go. That is the second cluster of checks. That'll pay you about $15,000. Let's cut to the second add-on that comes from the wonderful senator from Pennsylvania. His name is Bob Casey, and he's a 61-year-old Democrat, and he's proposed $250 billion for my seniors and also for my disabled people. What is this for? He proposes it for things like paid home health care. What are the problems? What are the solutions? The problems are you may not be able to afford home health care. So what are you doing? You're having your son and daughter take care of you and stay home from work. Double whammo. So he's trying to solve both of those ills with one solution. Give the money to the states to have them provide you a home health care provider totally free, provided by the state or the city or the county. That'll allow your son to go back to work and your daughter to go back to work and get back into the workforce, lower the labor shortage, and give them an income. That is a second add-on. Now let's turn to the third cluster of checks with 2 keywords you want to watch for: clean energy and also a world exclusive. So this third cluster of checks is deliciousness. We got checks for schools, free school meals for all checks. We got cheaper prescription medication. We got checks for farmers, checks for free internet. And there comes those words, clean energy. Watch for them. I'm coming back to them in a second. Checks for workers like independent contractors, and then checks for seniors, dental, vision, hearing care, and lowering the eligibility age for Medicare, which brings me to a world exclusive. This channel has learned that the number one legislator on Capitol Hill about aging, Bob Casey, has proposed to drop the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 60. He's 61 years old. And then that clean energy language. Why is that important? Well, the president had met meetings with Joe Manchin early in the week, and one of the checks in that clean energy cluster, Joe Manchin says, I don't want to do it. Got to take it out. So the president's taking it out. That's good news for you, because where does the money get reallocated? To the purple power energy, of course. When you take out a program, you don't take out the money. The money goes somewhere else, and it's now available for us. More about that clean energy later in this video. But one of the checks in this third cluster I particularly like, it's free internet. Yeah, all you have to do is say, what's the username and password? Because the cities will have free internet for you. Username is sirloin at 8 o'clock. Password is street and stimulus at 7 o'clock. There we go. Isn't it convenient how the username and passwords sort of pitch the show titles? It's just sort of like a nice plug. I appreciate the city doing that for me. There we go. Well, there's a third add-on, and I think you know what that third add-on is, and I have a big new detail developing tonight on Evenings LA about that third add-on. And of course, that third add-on is MSC. The MSC add-on gets a big twist as Omar's office gives one viewer insight as to what's going on with the proposed addition of that IRS monthly stimulus check. Let's get to this right now. When you look at this recon, you have it in a subcommittee currently. Subcommittee is not the House floor. It's something below the House floor, $3.5 trillion recon. It does not have a bill format yet, and it won't be a bill format till it goes to the House floor. So when can they add those MSCs? Who can add them, and where would they add them? Three possibilities to add those MSCs or the Maxine Waters money or the Bob Casey program. Where can they add them? First, on the House side, before it becomes a bill in the subcommittee with Sheila Jackson, the number 2 progressive in the House. They get added in the House subcommittee. Or they can wait till it becomes a House bill, then add it to the House bill before it goes for a vote. So you would not see it in the bill. Then they would say, I'm going to make changes to the bill before I vote on it, because I'm not going to vote for this bill. They make changes, and then they call for a vote. One viewer, longtime viewer of this channel, reached out to Omar's office yesterday to advocate, and Omar's office told the viewer that the negotiations on the inclusion of that monthly stimulus check are done, and it will be $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. That's not particularly anything new, because I've been the world exclusive for that story for nearly 2 months. We've been told that by over a dozen legislators to thousands of viewers. I've had that story, and LA, the news site has had that story for many weeks. But what I wanted to know from the viewer is where. Where would it potentially be added, if that's going to be added, and who's going to be adding it? Of course, this is Omar's office. She's a House member. The viewer said his understanding from the conversation was it was going to be added on the House side, and it was going to be potentially added after there's a bill, but before there's a vote. Meaning it won't be in the House bill, but it'll be added in as a amendment to the bill before it goes to a House floor vote. And that is exactly what Nancy Pelosi has told viewers of this channel before, that she would add it in as an amendment to the House bill. Wow, fascinating. Now, there is a last opportunity, and the biggest one, which is the Senate. And who wants to give you a monthly stimulus check on the Senate? Well, Casey, Coons, Warren, Sanders, Schumer. But Schumer's the most important one because he's the majority leader. And he tells Debbie Applegate going into the weekend 2 weeks ago he was going to do it. He told Donnie's wife the week before that. And he also told another viewer going to the last weekend he's going to insert it. How do they do this? Well, that Vote-A-Rama is a date in which they have 2 days of making changes to whatever's in the House bill or not in the House bill. If it's not in there, they make changes to add something in there. And who's in charge of the Vote-A-Rama? Chuck Schumer. Who determines when they call things for a vote? Chuck Schumer. Who determines what is called and when it's called during the Vote-A-Rama? Chuck Schumer. Who wants to insert that monthly stimulus check provision on the Senate side? Well, Chuck Schumer's among those many senators. And who determines what they wear to the Vote-A-Rama? And what's the song selection? Mitch. I mean, you have to give him something to do. Just give him something, because you know he's going to mess up that also. Just, how do I look? Yeah, Mitch, it's just awful, but you had to do something. So there you go. Just so long as he does not choose the entree, because it's not fish or lobster. Fish and lobster is not a choice, Mitch. It's like chicken or lobster, not fish and lobster. There you go. That is the MSC, but we aren't done with that MSC at all, because we have the incredible message that came in with the viewer and the number one senator for your recon, his chief of staff. Chief of staff, as you know, is the number one person in the Washington bureau of that senator's office. This is the toppest of the top you can get to. And this is what the conversation said. Let's go over what the screen grab said. They now have in total between congressional and senatorial offices received more contacts of advocacy from LALATE than the number of signatures in the American petition. Wow, that's 3 million. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories from your viewers, LALATE. Now they have more of what they have. Now they have a better sense and understanding of how the Americans are trying to make it through the pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories from the LALATE viewers, and they have the voice of the people across the nation in you, LALATE, that has become too loud to be ignored. Wow, that is really kind. Let's go over that last sentence on screen. Let me come back on my image here. And the last sentence concerns me and you. Please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as the professional voice of the people you have become, LALATE, and push until this becomes law. Well, that is really kind, and that is absolutely imperative. We have to push until we're over the finish line. Advocacy starts here, and it doesn't end here. In the second half of this video, we have a lot coming up. The president had a series of meetings which happened after afternoons LA, so this is totally new. You're going to hear a little bit more about those. You're going to hear totally brand new stuff about those meetings. You're going to hear a little bit more about those backup plans for Joe Manchin, and one of them is falling apart, so they can't do it. So they're defaulting to another. We're going to go over what the president's doing tomorrow, and so you get a sense of where he's doing things and how he's doing it. You're going to get my insight of the situation, and also you're going to get a sense of where they need to find that commonality to get this over the finish line. We got that and more in a big second half of this video. Stay with me. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on Evenings LALATE as Congress is back. They got 3 weeks to get this done. Now they're down to less than a week. I have the latest details of tonight's recording. A private play is underway. Who is this for? The president's having private meetings, and I'll explain to you why this is totally different than the narrative you have seen on this channel over the last few weeks. This is brand new tonight on Evenings LALATE and explains what you will and won't see on broadcast media. Meantime, a possible deal with Joe Manchin. The deal will be covered in this channel. But one of the backup plans falling apart, and a second one could be in trouble as well. I have the latest details. Student loan debt forgiveness is heating up, and there could be more debt going into this weekend forgiven as well. That's incredible, great news. We'll be turning over to the big COLA raise, 5 to 6%, but then we're not done there yet. You could be getting additional sums of money lifted across the board. Then we'll be looking back at the 1.5-year anniversary of this channel, which is this weekend. We'll have a lot to look back at, as this channel has now passed 140 million views in less than a year and a half. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Join me next on Evening's Countdown, which starts at 6 o'clock. Then we go into Stream Stimulus at 7, Sirloin at 8, and we got a show at 9, 10, 11:30, 3 a.m., 3:30, and 4 a.m., all the way to the new day. about for stimulus. 16 hours of programming throughout the night into the new day, 24 hours a day for this channel. So subscribe, like this video, and consider becoming a member. With that, let's turn to the surprise that the president gave us, and could there be another surprise coming up next? The surprise is more student loan debt was forgiven in the last few days. But I really do believe that the final student loan debt could be forgiven next. What's going on? The president initially forgave some student loan debt for individuals who became disabled after graduation. Then, just days ago, the president forgave 2 more rounds of student loan debt, and a third could be coming this week. My position is it should be accepted by the fellow Democrats. Let me go over what's going on. The president forgave 2 more rounds of student loan debt just days ago. First, individuals who went to work in the nonprofit sector for 10 years after graduation, your debts are now forgiven. Wow. Then the president forgave big money student loan debts for individuals who went to work in the public sector for 10 years after graduation. This is huge. This is people who went to work for the city, the county, the state, the federal government after graduation for at least 10 years. Your debts are forgiven. One viewer found this when watching one of the videos, Morning's Countdown. He was in a live chat. He did not know he was tuning in to watch about student loan debt, and he's been a federal employee for 20 years. He said, LALATE, I've been a federal prison guard for 20 years. Does that mean my student loan debt has been forgiven? I said yes. He was speechless, needless to say. Incredible, great story. Then, the big surprise is whether the president will take the next step and why the Democrats shouldn't take it. The president has offered $10,000 of student loan debts for everyone else to be forgiven right away. I think the remaining Democrats should sign on to this. They should not hold out for $50,000, the number the president said he would not do. And that can be done now at $10,000, and the president changes his mind next year, they can do the remaining $40,000. That is your student loan debt. But now let's turn to what's going on with Congress. They're back. They're back. And while they got 3 weeks, they've imposed a self-imposed deadline of next week to get the recon done. So with that at issue, new tonight on Evenings LA is this. A private play is at issue. The president has been having a series of private meetings every single day without the press knowing about it to get the recon done. This is huge. Let me explain what's at issue. If you've been with this channel for the last few months, you've seen the president earlier this year deliver these sort of orchestrated commercials. Remember where I even had Sirloin laugh about them? These orchestrated commercials to tell you why these things are so great. The president is doing the antithesis right now, the complete opposite. 1, he's not holding press conferences. 2, he's not speaking about the recon of the roads and bridges. Number 3, he is not even having briefings about where the negotiations are. Rather, he is focused internally on private meetings with legislators, not even telling press who he's actually really meeting with. The reason? He wants to get it done. He's turning it internally and away from pitching it to the American people. Late today, he had a tester of a meeting. Who did he meet with? Senator John Tester, Democrat out of Montana, and Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat out of Nevada, and Mark Warner out of Virginia. He also met with House and moderate and progressives throughout the day. Tester said, I'm going to be pushing the president to try to get it done from his side sooner rather than later. And it's certainly a big part of getting the president to do it right now. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat in Massachusetts, said the president is a longtime policy guy and a relationships guy, so he brings both kinds of skills to his work. And that's what Elizabeth Warren is referring to, this sort of private approach to getting the negotiations done. This came after Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin had a public spat last weekend when Bernie Sanders published an op-ed in Joe Manchin's home state newspaper, and Manchin was not happy with it. This comes as the president will, however, tomorrow take a trip to Scranton and have a town hall broadcast on Thursday night on CNN. Bob Casey, which you met early in this video, who wants to do a lot of things for seniors, he certainly wants to give you a stimulus check. And he told Lorica that several times. And he also wants to do big things for people on disabilities. Will also be meeting with the president today. He wanted to get some suggestions about the issues we should focus on. And that's why I was there, said Bob Casey. Huge Now, what is going on? Joe Manchin gave a little bit of an update late today. Let's turn to the possible deals with Joe Manchin and then the backup plans. First, the deal. The president came up with a great idea last week to try to get one of three issues resolved. What are the three issues? Number one, there is a price tag where the recon needs to go to. And the way you do that is by shortening the duration of the programs. Tonight on Evenings LA, we actually have a number on this. I'll be going over that number in a second. Number two, we have the Christensen-Nema prescription medication language. And then finally, number three, we have the Joe Manchin climate issue. Well, the great news is that over the last 7 days, I've heard nothing about the Christensen-Nema prescription medication language. So I think the president has gotten this done. Unfortunately, as I told you, the way the president's doing it, it's a private play now. So he's not going to come out and say, hi, I had a deal with Joe Christensen on prescription medication. It's done. It's not going to be like that. We'll have to sort of do a little bit of these insider reports, and then we get a briefing and a suggestion. So I think that one's done. The price tag I'm going to go over in a second. But the Joe Manchin equation is very important. The president floated a climate solution for Joe Manchin late last week, which surfaced on this channel. I was the only broadcast channel to cover it because it was really buried in a print article that had the exclusive on it. The president proposed to Joe Manchin, who reportedly liked it, taking one of the languages in the recon that has been passed and changing the eligibility language so that Joe Manchin's big industries in his home state of West Virginia qualify for the money. I think this is brilliant. The change is to make the coal and natural gas power plants of Joe Manchin's state qualify or within the zone of eligibility for billions of dollars of financial incentives in that cluster checks, which would be a big potential payday for the fossil fuel providers and producers of Joe Manchin's state, one of his biggest constituents in the state. Huge. I think that is a great deal maker by Biden. But there have been backup plans, and tonight I have an update about one of the backup plans. We have two backup plans, clean energy and carbon. Although I call the clean energy a backup plan, it's sort of part of a plan, meaning it's not a universe unto itself. Joe Manchin said, when I look at that third cluster and I look at that clean energy, I'm not agreeing to all those checks. You need to take one of them out. So the president took that clean energy check out. That's good because that funds is reallocated to us. But then there's the carbon tax idea, which I went over with you the last few days, even on Afternoons LA. It proposes to do a tax on carbon producers, not necessarily for your tax, not a tax for, that you would have to pay, but they would have to pay. There's a lot of different ways to write it up, and they thought this was a potential way to get it done. So Joe Manchin did give us clarity about this. I like this. I mean, finally, people are telling us what they don't do and don't like. For months, we just weren't hearing from people. Now they're saying what they do and won't do. Joe Manchin spoke to reporters late today on West Coast time and said the carbon tax is not on board at all right now. So I think that one is not going to work. And guess what? The president may lose other senators on the carbon tax as well. John Taster also in a separate press conference said, I might have a problem with the carbon tax. I just don't think you can implement it. I use a lot more fuel than a trucker does, and when we're both going to get to the same check, it's going to make us a whole hole. I just don't think it's going to work. I think I got some issues with the carbon tax myself. So if you have basic and Tester is not a progressive, he's not a conservative, he's just middle of the line, and he just has a problem with it as well. He's from Montana. So that one is apparently not working. Now, I'm going to go back over climate in a second, and I'll go over what I think the president should do. But now let's turn to getting the recon smaller, and breaking news tonight about this as well. When you look at the recon, what they got to do is they got to get that recon from 3.5 down to a number the moderate Democrats like. We all know that Joe Manchin had initially said 1.5. I've never even mentioned that number much on this channel because it's just what someone wanted at a moment. I never thought that the recon has to go down on 1.5. So I said something lower. I would say in the low 2s, maybe high 1s. Tonight, we actually have a number. Insiders now say that the moderate Democrats will agree to 1.9. They absolutely will agree to 1.9, which is absolutely incredible. It's great news. I got to tell you why. The recon is $3.5 trillion right now. And you're going to see in a second, I'll show you that the programs are running 10 years We don't need the programs to run 10 years. Jalapal, everyone else says they don't need to run 10 years. Let's just do the programs at 5 years. You know what half of 3.5 is? 1.7. We don't even need to go to 5 years. Maybe we can go to 6 years and still at 1.9. And we're done. We're done until we get to the climate part. This is huge. This is really big. Tonight on Evenings LA, a series of insiders have now told press that the moderate Democrats are looking at 1.9. That anything over 1.9 starts to become squeezy to them. So 1.9 is absolutely a doable number. I think this is great news. I was always worried that they were going to say something 1.4 or walk away. It's a very low ball number. 1.9 is absolutely doable. So what's great news is that when we look back at the recon history, I've been saying several times, speculating about how long programs are running. Those speculations were actually world exclusives at the time. I had said that when Bernie asked for 7 trillion, I was speculating that those were 20-year programs. Unbeknownst to me, I was delivering a world exclusive at the time because they were 20-year programs. Then when Bernie said he got it down to 3.5 trillion, which is the current price tag right now, I had speculated at the time that the programs were 10 years. Well, Jayalapal last week confirmed my reporting as well that these programs are currently at 10 years. The great news is that Bernie, Nancy Pelosi, Jayalapal, and myself all agree that the way you get this done is just shortening the duration of the programs. You can't have everything you want. And I know the president wanted 20-year programs and wanted to have a living legacy that would go on for 5 generations. Not going to happen. And certainly a lot of people want to have programs run for 10 years. Not going to happen. The issue is big, bold, beautiful checks this year, next year, and the year after. And we really don't need to be focusing on year 8 or 9. We just need to focus on a few couple years right now. And every one of the progressives are really saying the same thing. So let's go over the details and calculations of this with their quotes and statements right now. Remember, if you take a $3.5 trillion recon at 10 years, split it in half, you're at 1.7. We don't even need to go to 1.7. We need to go to 1.9 and we're done. And that brings us to about maybe 6-year programs. So Debbie Wasserman says, don't try to be perfect. It's the enemy of good. She's the Democrat from Florida. I agree with her. It was a week ago where Bernie said we need to hear what the opposition wants to say, what thinks about the situation. We do now. Now we have Joe Manchin really telling us by the hour which particular program he doesn't like. I mean, it's like a godsend because this is why things weren't moving fastly before because no one was saying anything. Everyone was mum. Now we literally know. Carbon tax, no. Carbon tax, yes. We can take it out. Can't take it out. Clean energy, take it out. We can get things done when people in the same party communicate, and communication's key. Pelosi said the recon must get done because it will be done. Great news. Pelosi also said climate central is part of the legislation. It is because Joe Manchin has a real lot of problems with a lot of provisions of the climate. Take them out. I'll go over my opinion of that situation in a second. Alex Padilla says no climate, no deal. Correct. You don't have to take out all the climate, but you need to take out the ones that are controversial. Bob Casey, who's the guy who has the $250 billion add-on for my seniors and my people on disability, he met with the president today. Big person to have him meet with the president because he's going in there advocating for seniors and SSI and SSDI. And of course, he wants to give you a stimulus check, as he told Lorica. He said that people are very excited at the things he's proposing because we haven't done this in 40 years. But then comes the game-winning quote. You know who it's going to come from. Jalapal, of course. She, you, and I all think the same. We think the same way, which is the issue right now is your wallet. You need big checks, fast checks, immediate checks. We don't need to be focusing on 7 years from now or 10 years from now. We need to focus on this year, next year, and the year after that. And here comes the quote. We would rather reduce the number of years of the program running because the universality of the benefits and the immediacy of the benefits are absolutely critical, big and fast. And frankly, that's more important than having the entire program run for 10 years. There you go. We're happy to see the speakers think the same thing and say the same thing in our press conference. All right, now here comes my commentary of the situation. My commentary, this is not fact, this is commentary, is you have a recon. You absolutely now have a price tag that is doable. I'm really ecstatic. 1.9 is absolutely doable. And that will probably bring the programs maybe to around 6 years. It's not even to 5 years. And all the programs will be fully paid out. You'll be seeing at least $15,000 of viewers on this channel across the board. There's money for stimulus checks. There's a lot of money for a lot of things in there. The last thing that's the hardest thing in there is the climate controversial provisions that Joe Manchin doesn't like. Take them out. Take them out. What are you doing? This is not something you mess around with. You're really at the edge of the finish line. This is not Donald versus Nancy 2020. This is Joe and the Democrats. This is Manchin and the Democrats. You're all the same party. Take the provision of the climate out. If it's so difficult and it's so hard to figure it out and it needs more than 7 days to figure out the climate, after you've spent several months to figure out this climate, then take it out and do the climate next year. Moreover, let's be sort of honest with ourselves, which I don't think the president's being honest with the situation with the American people. The climate sucks. The climate's bad. The climate needs to be fixed. It's going to be bad in November. It's going to be bad in December. And no matter what legislation you pass today for the climate, it's not going to be fixed in 30 days. You can get to the climate in February 2022. You can't fix people's wallets in the next 6 months. You need to fix their wallets in the next 6 days. You can't wait on the American people. The climate can wait a few more weeks. It has waited for 10 years. It can wait a few more weeks. You do climate in the 6th stimulus package next year. I'm not saying you don't do any climate now, but if you get to the finish line, you get to the edge of the finish line and there's 2 provisions for climate that remaining that are absolutely so controversial, you don't have the Democratic votes, take them out. This is the finish line. As the person said, don't let perfect be the evil of good. You can't always look for perfect. And there you go. That is my opinion situation. Now, let's turn to the big surprises that are really great, which is those COLA raises. COLA raises. Oh, that's student loan debt. COLA raises. Here we go. 5 to 6%. Well, guess what? You're just getting started because you're going to see 2 more raises after that. What's going on? Well, your COLA raise was announced by Social Security Administration last week, but guess what? Fifth stimulus falls right after fourth stimulus, and fifth stimulus looks to raise your benefits up 2 more times after that. Let's do the analysis. With this stimulus, they look to raise everyone's benefits 1 time. That would come after COLA. This is you if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits. Then they'll apply a new benchmark. They do benchmarks inflation. When would they apply that? In December 2022. COLA could be 0 next year. Inflation's not going to be 0. It's going to be 1 to 2, 3%. So you're going to get 3 raises between now and December of next year if this stimulus gets passed. Remember, once you step up, you never step down. So first you're going to step up under COLA, which is currently law. You're going to step up. Then when this stimulus passes, you'll step up again. And then finally, when they apply the new benchmark in December next year, you'll step up again. Incredible, great news. They're going to remove the asset cap dating back to a 1980s law, says you can't have more than $3,000 in hand. Now you'll be able to have some Kansas City Royal Blue. If you're Canute, you'll be able to remove the income cap dating back to a 1960s law that says you can't work. Love is going to win, and marriage penalty and the income cap, and you'll be able to get to be able to work and no longer fear loss of benefits. And finally, the marriage penalty is going to go away, and love is going to win, and you'll be able to do a pair dance at your own wedding. Viewers like Rob and Sandy will be able to get married and no longer fear loss of marriage benefits, benefits because of the marriage penalty. And that is fifth stimulus. Finally, if you have not become a member, what are you doing? The membership link is under this video. Become a member today and learn about all the benefits you can get. What's important to understand is that when we look at this recon, this fourth stimulus recon, it'll pay viewers on average about $15,000 just to start. This is you. This is you if you are a senior, if you're a single individual, married couple. $15,000 across all these programs. This is what I do. I get people money. And when third stimulus became law, and I looked at it, I said, I can get viewers on average about $15,000. I got them on average $40,000. So consider becoming a member. The link's under the video. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Parrot, Calcino VIP, and get that LALATE newsletter delivered to you Monday through Friday, 7 p.m., about an hour and a half after the show airs. It features all the big money on the first, second, and third stimulus that you qualify for. Why would you not? Have you gotten $40,000 from third stimulus? If you haven't, you need to become a member. If you've gotten $20,000 from this third stimulus, you can get more rounds of money. You can get more rounds of rent and utilities and food and internet. Watch Afternoons LA, which aired before the show, which goes over more about that third stimulus. Because of running time, I don't have time to go over third stimulus tonight in Evenings LA show. But consider becoming a member today to get information of all that big money that you can get under third stimulus. And then when it becomes fourth, I'll show you how to get that money as well. Finally, as we look forward to the weekend, you know what that means. With just a few days away, this channel's approaching its 1.5-year anniversary. Over the last year, when this channel has amassed 140 million views in a year and a half, a YouTube record of enormous magnitude, we've learned a lot about ourselves, and learned about myself, and learned a lot about you as well. We've learned that patience is really one of the most important things, and as time has gone on, we've understood how patience is important, but to move quickly. There's two very different things. You want to move quickly, but you also want to be patient. I had countless viewers involved in April of 2020 who applied right away from PUA when it became live or UI or EIDL, and sometimes their money wasn't there, but they applied quickly because moving quickly is different than waiting around. And as soon as they applied, a lot of the programs didn't pay very quickly. Eventually they did, and they got all their money. Patience is important, but also diligence is equally important. Doing things quickly, fast, correctly the first time, whether it is getting all the big money under third stimulus, getting all these extra rounds of money in third stimulus right now, that's one of the big things we learned on this channel. And it was in December 2020 when we looked back on this channel, people were just waiting around and Congress wasn't getting it done. We had Nancy versus Donald. And I basically looked at the situation. I said, I don't see Nancy versus Donald getting this done until maybe December because we were in November and October. I said, you need money. Let's get some money. And viewers heard me, and they got those big sums of money. What viewers have learned and what I've shown them across the last year and a half is money is money. If you have 20 bills on your bank account per month you have to deal with, get as many of them paid for by the federal government as you can. You can't have every bill paid, and you can't have the bill paid the way you want it to be paid. But if you get as lot of bills paid as often as possible, then that is something that alleviates the strain. People sometimes default to something and then get used to something, which was another thing we learned over the last year and a half. When that non-filer filing launched in 2020, a lot of people incorrectly became too dependent upon it, thinking that they would never have to file a tax return for anything, that they never filed a tax return, and because they used the non-filer filing tool one time, they wouldn't have to use it again. Don't always assume that the past repeats itself. The future isn't always the same as the past. A lot of people who got a second or first stimulus check a certain way didn't get it the same way for third. A lot of people who had no problems with first and second stimulus check arrivals had big problems with the third. It's just the way things are. So never put yourself in a comfort zone thinking that life is always in a comfort zone. You always have to modify and get ready to modify. Just assume you have to do changes along the board. And that's how you're ready to pivot when things happen and when things are upon you. With that, I appreciate your patronage over the last year and a half. Throughout the videos this week, I'll be featuring more anecdotes looking back on what we've learned about ourselves and myself over the last year and a half and how we can use it to apply ourselves to be better people going forward. Earlier today, I discussed issues such as keeping patience and also temperament, how we saw people very sort of temperamental early on during the pandemic and actually a little bit more temperamental now. So it's important to understand how to refocus yourself and use the past as guidance for the future. And with that, we have a lot of shows coming up tonight. We have Countdown coming up right after this video. Stay with me. It'll send you right there. Then we have Street and Stimulus at 6 o'clock. Sirloin at 7 o'clock. Sirloin at 8. And then we got shows at 9, 10, 11:30. And then 3 and 3:30 in the morning tomorrow morning. And then early mornings at LALATE. So with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers is a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video. 2,000-3,000 likes. Keep on smiling. Keep on staying positive. Information is king, and it's all right here as LA continues.